All right, happy Friday. I'm really excited, everybody that's joining the live recording today for the Clear channel. If it's your very first time, please go to your cell phone. Please pull out your phone. Go into YouTube. I know you're on it today. Type in KLEAR channel and please subscribe. Super proud. We went from a few subscribers a few years ago, mainly me and my wife, to over, I think we're at 1,300 or so right now as a channel. So I'm pumped. I got a good buddy of mine jumping on today who's got an incredible background and a ton of fun stories about business, life, entrepreneurship, dad life, and lots of moves he's made. So first of all, Gareth, thanks for jumping on today. Good morning.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
my pleasure. So Gareth, do you mind just like starting out, just some context, like tell everyone that's going to either jump on the channel live today or maybe later on the YouTube channel. Where's Gareth from? What's his background? I know Scotland and a few other things. So tell us about Gareth.
Yeah, I get really Scottish today. For the whole time, I'll just be like this.
I love it.
No, so I was born in Aberdeen, Scotland, and when I was young, I moved to, I was watching the podcast you did with Benny Madrid, and I was like, God, so similar our lives. Like he grew up in like the mean streets of South Phoenix, like gang-ridden area, and I grew up in the mean streets of Clearwater Beach, Florida. In like the least tough town on earth. Like I'm not tough at all. Uh, so yeah, in like the burbs area of countryside. So I didn't grow up in a very. I hit the jackpot in where I grew up. I didn't have any. No one was coming to hurt me or anything. So, but I was filled with lots of entrepreneurs and really successful people. So I was surrounded by really successful humans. I went to college at Florida State. I'm a crazy Florida State fan. I got a degree in computer science. I got in a nasty car accident, so I was in a wheelchair for a bit. I didn't get a degree in something I was good at. I got a degree in something that I could do sitting on my butt if I had to. So I got a degree in management information systems, and I stayed an extra semester because I was having a lot of fun. I couldn't seem to graduate on time, so I
Well,
figured
it's
it out.
Florida State, Florida
Yeah,
State.
it's a fun school. I remember going on a visit, and they said it was 5-1 women since 1983 during like the first 5 minutes, and I was like, well, I don't have to go anywhere else. I know where I'm coming. I need all the help I can get. So yeah, I graduated. I got a job at a small IT firm that had got purchased by Microsoft before I got there. I worked there for a little bit, and then I pretty quick after that started my entrepreneurial endeavor, and I've been rocking that ever since. So since 2005.
Love it. Love it. So tell me, I'm familiar with the accident. Do you mind sharing? Because I think I'm sure you learned a lot about yourself going through that kind of tough time, right? I mean, can you tell us about it? You feel comfortable with it? I mean,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
jumping right in on a Friday morning.
yeah. So it was my father's 50th birthday party, and one of the guys that he worked with, his son had a Steeda Mustang. I know off camera we were talking about my buddy who's a race car driver. He drives a drag car. This was another guy who had this Steeda Mustang, and they've got Celine Mustangs, Steeda Mustangs, Roush Mustangs. So he had a Steeda, and it was most of the Steeda ones are known for being convertibles. If it was a convertible, I'd be dead. But he says to me in the middle of the party, I was 19 years old. I'm like, he's like, you want to go for a ride? And I was like, yes, because I'm a car guy. I love going fast, and the car was the better part of 600 horsepower. It was a really, really awesome car, and he was a really good driver up till when he wasn't. So I was in the passenger seat. I was wearing my seatbelt. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt. And we were doing donuts in the road and driving around, and we weren't even a mile away from my parents' house. And he was doing a power slide, so it's like 100-mile-an-hour drift, right? Before drifting was cool. And he was doing it really well, and he just just clipped the curb, and and then I don't remember very much of it, but he flew out the window and he was fine. I was stuck in there, so I broke my back, my legs, my pelvis, my heels. Yeah, it's a crappy night. So so
Holy shit.
I was messed up for a while, and 6 back surgeries later, now I'm in epic shape. But it was a long road. Yeah, it taught me a lot. Taught me a lot because I felt like at that point like the world was against me. Like I was like boo hoo for me, and I learned a lot of good lessons from my dad, which was like, life doesn't owe you anything, so suck it up, and you got to make the best with what you got. And I think it made me a better human, both physically and mentally. So, it forced me, it kind of was the road into kind of my fitness journey. I hadn't done a whole lot of self-fitness related things at all unless I was made to. Football practice I was made to, track practice I was made to, tennis practice I was made to. Now I had to, so it just became that, and I've been pretty consistent in the gym, for 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I obviously an incredibly hard situation. I can only imagine how your family felt, right? Out of love for you. And I know you're a dad now. I just couldn't imagine,
Yeah.
something like that happening to one of the boys. But listen, I'm a firm believer, as you know, that, things serve us if we choose to look at things in a certain way. And although life can knock you around a little bit and kick your ass sometimes, if you look at it with the right lens, you tend to do good with it. So speaking of fitness, I'm just being honest. We had a little bit of fitness challenge a few years back. Do you remember that challenge?
Yeah. I remember. We were in a meeting, finance meeting or something. Young entrepreneurs. You were a speaker, and I remember, I was going through some health issues at the time. So this was in 2006, and I remember you standing up there, and I was like, "Gosh, this guy looks just like me." And I remember you saying, "I'm gonna be, this time next year, I'm gonna be 200 pounds." And at the time, I was 6'4", 150 pounds, and I was like, "Hell yeah, me too." And so I was like, "I can't wait. When I see him, we're gonna see each other, and it's gonna be epic." And so I committed to this crazy fitness regimen, eating bonkers amount of calories, cleaning up my diet.
In the middle of the night and everything else, what you're telling me?
I worked my ass off, and I got to 200 pounds in 12 months. I gained exactly 50 pounds in 12 months. And then I saw you a year later, and you freaking look the same. I was like, "Where's my accountability, buddy?" I was so excited about it. I'm excited that you're still on that journey to make it to 200 pounds one day.
I am. I'm still on my journey. I'm still there. So, it's funny, right? So as we, it's past. It's past. I gave up. But it's interesting, right? So we obviously are peers in business, right? We've been in the industry of sales and business management and leading and coaching people for many years now. And so tell me about early part of your sales career, early part of your entrepreneurship journey. What were you doing? What did you learn about yourself? Anything you can tell your younger self, for anyone maybe just getting started?
Most of the advice I got was from my dad. My dad was a salesman from birth, I think. So I was pretty blessed to have that mentorship. I called my company Rhino, and it is probably my spirit animal. That's true. I'm stubborn. I have thick skin. Can't see. But the name is my father's nickname, right? And so the idea of it originally was, I don't remember who gave me the advice, but it was like, you act as if someone you really respect is always watching you. And if you have to change the way you act because someone you respect is watching you, you're not living the life that you want to or that you should. And so if my father came to watch me today, I would change nothing about the way I raise my kids, the way I take care of myself, the way I run my business. Nothing. I wouldn't change anything. Everyone's worked at that place where you're like, the boss is coming. We got to dress better, show up earlier. We got to do all these things and level up so that we can put on that show. And I think, I wasn't always like that. I would be the guy that would dress a little better when it was showtime, as opposed to being on all the time. So sales, it didn't come easy to me in the beginning, but again, I got some good advice from my dad when I first got into the sales world. He says, "Look, his word for it. He says you're going to suck, so you're going to have to outwork everybody, and you're going to get very average results, and you're going to put in 2, 3, 4 times the effort in order to receive that. And if you can do it for long enough, your talent will eventually catch up." And so that was in our world, law of averages, and trying to see as many. That's like been ingrained in my psyche for a long time. And so I remember the first day I'm in the field knocking doors and trying to sell things. I just remember listening to my dad. I was just like, I'm just going to find a yes. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to find somebody that likes me. And I remember my very first day. We were representing office supply company, and I was on a trip. My first day by myself was in Montgomery, Alabama. Home of the. It's weirdest enough. Like I used to say home of the toothless people. Was what I used to say. And my first sale was a guy. He had one tooth, but he had a Black American Express card. So his priorities were just weird. And it was my 57.
And the black card, the unlimited card where you don't have a limit, that card.
Yeah, the guy, I just remember, Alabama. So he had this massive truck, just Alabama traditional, very stereotypical vehicle. But it was awesome. And he ran a really cool construction contracting business. And it was my 47th or 57th business. It was like 1 p.m. and I've been working my ass off all day. And I remember thinking, I can do this. And I think talent caught up a little faster than my father thought it would. And I found sales pretty easy. And then, the management side of things was a different story.
Nice. Nice. And so true, right? It's that skill versus will conversation, right? So I know when I started in sales coming fresh out of college, my skill level as far as negotiation and presentation and listening and closing, super low. But if you had the, 2 tanks, right? My skill tank was low. My will tank was like fireworks were going off because I wanted to win. I was completely on my own. I remember my dad says to me, coming from engineering, he's like, we'll find out very quickly if you're any good at this because it's performance based, and he's like, don't call me for money.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's the one-liners that I remember growing up. It's the little things that I can hear my dad's voice. I remember my dad saying to me when I was young, he was like, you may want to try drugs and alcohol. Just think if you do, your dad thinks you're an idiot. And I remember being super young, and I remember it being presented to me when I was, 12 or 13 years old. And I remember thinking, I don't want my dad to think I'm an idiot. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those little one-liners are important. So I try and live up to that with my kids.
Yeah, I love it. So you're in the sales industry, start learning about leadership, start learning about management. Obviously, you're an entrepreneur today for many years and a successful one at that. What did you learn about yourself? What did you have to change? Anything in that journey of learning how to lead and manage and get your business started?
To get my business started, no. I would say I was a poser in the beginning. I think I started my business on just, effort. And I was a very selfish person for, the first part of my career. It was, what's in it. Everybody listens to the same radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? And I think that was kind of my, my priority at the time. And I think the moment when I switched from me to we, one, I started having, not just transactional relationships, like real relationships. I mean, some of the people in my organization are truly family to me, and it wasn't like that. And I wish I would have made that decision sooner, but I feel like I needed to get kicked in the face a little bit, in order to learn that lesson. But as soon as I transitioned to the, let's do this together, one, I started making a ton more money, um, which is, it's weird. Like, I didn't expect that. And the idea of entrepreneurship to me was very specific. Like, why I got into it was really important to me. So working at Microsoft, like, I've never left a job because of the job. I've almost always left because the people suck, and I think at that time I'm like, I can't control anything, right? And so I was like, I got to find an industry that I like everybody, and then I can make a living doing, and then and I don't hit my alarm clock to go and see every day. And so, after becoming a professional interviewer, I just couldn't find anything until, I was like, damn it, I'm going to have to work for myself because it's the only way that I can control. I care very little about what I do, but I care a lot about who I do it with. I want to work with people that, like I said, I don't hit my alarm to go and see every morning. And I don't, like, remember that high school, that person that got invited to the party, and you're like, who invited Bill? You're like, he's the energy vampire. I was like, that was everywhere at every job I'd ever had. And the only way that I could control that was to be in control of who I spend most of my time with. So, as I've, built my company, it's been with very specific, focus. It's really been focused on, working with people that inspire me, and they have to be a little bit weird. Like, if you're normal, you're boring. And so, I have like all these little check boxes in my head of the type of people that I want to be surrounded by, because I'm at work more than I'm anywhere at this part of my life, and and I want to work with great people to where it's, it makes it more fun, and I enjoy my kids to see the, you never want your kids or your family to meet the people you work with and be like, you work with that guy? I was like, no, my daughter loves everybody that works here. She loves meeting them and hanging out with them, and I see you do it with your kids too.
Yeah.
It's cool. So it's like my barometer of what kind of company that I want to run. And again, it translated into some life changing things.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I know it's interesting. I was telling somebody this week how if the boys don't go to team night, they are pissed.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's like the end of the world at my house. Like and they let us know. What do you mean? Like, well, I can't go to team night. What did I do? Like, what do I got to change for next week? I'm like, we're going to a bar. You have to be 21. So unless you're 21 by next Monday,
that's good.
and we go to a bar, you can't go.
I
So
like that.
so so being an entrepreneur, you've obviously had some challenges. You've gotten your ass kicked. Welcome to the life of entrepreneurship, and just really in an industry where you control, what you do. And you've also had a ton of success. Can you tell me a little bit about the times where you got your ass kicked, and we'll talk about the good times too.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I've run a business by myself a couple times, and I've run a business in the opposite. If there's a book about that everybody should read, if if you want to run your own business, you want to start your own company, because I feel like if everybody doesn't read this specific book, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur, and then like, if everybody knew how, like, being an entrepreneur is not physically demanding in most cases. It's not mentally demanding. It's emotionally demanding because you're dealing with, like, it's like a piece of you, right? And so the toughest parts for me were, again, people. If someone says, you can count on me, I'll be there, and they don't show up. And being okay with that, and just keep moving forward. That Rocky Balboa quote: "It's not hard how hard you can get hit; It's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. So the book is it's not that old. It's called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and it was probably the greatest. I wish I would have read it 15 years earlier. I wish it existed 15 years earlier because it gave me such a really good perspective. Because I'm an athlete. You're an athlete. You're a big soccer guy. You know the start of the game. You know the end of the game. You know the result at the end of the game. In any athletic endeavor, for the most part, except soccer ties. It's weird.
Yeah.
But in business, right, there is no winner and loser, right? You're either ahead or you're behind, and I have been both, right? And I think having the perspective, it's like you're not winning, you're just ahead at the moment, but I'm still in the game. So as long as I'm still in the game, I haven't lost, right? So I always have this mantra: I'm coming, one way or the other. Watch out, because here comes Gareth. So maybe it's an internal, competition, but
Sure.
it's never against any individual. It's just against life. Like I'm just going to keep chipping away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had some tough times. My first year in business, I made zero money. I opened my business with $4,000. My end of the year, I had $4,000. My second year in business, I had $4,000 at the beginning, and I had minus $3,000 for it was like minus $6,000. I was in the red. It was not good, and then I did my third year. I made more money than I'd ever made in my life. I just didn't quit. I just kept getting kicked in the face and moving forward. I just kept getting kicked, and then eventually I got to earned the opportunity to hire some really great people, and that catapulted me into some really special things. And then
Yeah.
happened again, and then I think business is seasons, and I've had good seasons, I've had bad seasons, but I'm still in the game.
Yeah. And the neat thing is I know this year you're on pace. Your business is going to do 1.4 million. At least that's the pace it's. And obviously, I know you're pushing, but
Yeah, I mean, I
you
hope we
know,
do better. I mean, I feel like we keep, we keep climbing. But yeah, it's a good season. Yeah, it's a good
yeah,
season. But that's the people that I have. I've got some really amazing people who are, um, and so many of them are so inspiring to me. Because some of them at the age bracket they're at, I was like, man, it's like jealousy. Like, God, I wish I was like you when
totally.
I was your age. You know, I was like, man, I would be way farther ahead. Right? So a lot of my coaching with my team is just like don't change, just keep where you are. Don't go that way. Just keep getting better at who you are, and
Yeah,
you're gonna be so impressive. Because I feel like this day and age, if you're an animal, there's going to be a lot of people who are the opposite of that, and I feel like you're going to get way ahead. If you've got that, for lack of a better term, that dog in you.
yeah, I agree. So, and tell me about the wins. So, I know you're a big Florida State fan, and you've done some fun things around football and Tampa and everything else. So, tell us about some of the wins being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, have been pretty cool for me as a sports fan. It, really helped me through the pandemic when being a Tampa kid, having the Buccaneers win a Super Bowl, the Lightning win back-to-back Stanley Cups, even the soccer team, the Rowdies, won a championship in that same year. Right now, the Rays are the biggest baseball team in the MLB. Florida State's pre-ranked higher than they've been. When I was there, we lost 5 games in 5 years. Like we were awesome. So we had some tough seasons, as I was saying before. It's nice to be on an upswing, but it's nice to be able to taking my wife to Florida State and kind of going like, this is where this happened, and I can't tell you that story, but this is what this happened. It's cool to be able to take my family to see the things that are really important to me. I'm a big Formula One fan. I'm excited. I'm going to go to first time Formula One's going to be in Las Vegas, which is pretty awesome. And I think, the coolest thing is the traveling, So since I met my wife, we've been to a different country every year other than the, pandemic years for the entire existence of our relationship, which has been really special. And she grew up in Iowa. And so, party state, so in 2016, we had been married. We went to St. Lucia and we went there. That's where my parents went on their honeymoon. So it's kind of like we're trying to recreate a lot of the photographs, which is really cool. But after that, I was like, we just need to do an epic trip. And so we went, I took 3.5 weeks off and my business was cranking. And we went from Phoenix, Arizona, is where we were living at the time. We went from Phoenix to Los Angeles to Toronto, Toronto to Dubai, Dubai to Qatar, Qatar to Oman, Oman to London, London to Paris, Paris to Scotland, and then we came home. It was like, I don't know people in their lifetime that get to do crazy stuff like that. Yeah, it was pretty cool. For my 40th birthday, my wife, Heather, was like, you want to have a big party? And I was like, no, I don't. I don't want to have a big party for this one. This one stings. And she's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I just want to go somewhere I've never been, turn my phone off for 5 days, and just spend 5 days with you. And so, the original plan was Iceland, but, we live in Minnesota right now. And I remember looking at as we're booking the stuff, and it was like -4 degrees was the average. And I remember looking outside, and I was like, it's -4 degrees right now.
We don't need that. We don't need that.
Jamaica, so we went that was the last island that I hadn't been to yet. So I went to Jamaica for 5 days. I turned my phone off, and it was really cool to be able to do that, so.
Love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, I've been able to do some really cool stuff.
Any, and I know we're coming up on our kind of time together today, but any life lessons that you're teaching your kids that you learned maybe in business or that maybe you learned from people you look up to?
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah, not just my kids, but everybody I get an opportunity to speak to. The best advice I ever got in my whole life is 2 things. Number one is, you only take advice from people who have what you want. You're very rarely going to find a hater doing better than you, right? So, and I compartmentalize that a little bit. It's like, if you have somebody who has a really amazing marriage, my parents have been married for 45 years. They're still like gross in the kitchen and makes gross. But that's what I want, 40 years from now, or 30, whatever years from now. I want that. That's important to me. So when I'm asking advice, my dad's a romantic, so I ask a lot of, advice from him. And then I've got some other people in my life who are really successful in business. And so, they may not have the personal life that I want, but they've got the business life that I want. And so I take advice from them in business because they have what I want. I've got a buddy of mine who's an unbelievable golfer. He doesn't have any of the other things that I want, but he's got the best golf game I've ever seen personally in my own eyes. And so I take only a golf advice from him. So that's number one. Only take advice from people who have what you want. And then I think the best advice I ever got, and you can attest to this probably more than anybody I know, is that when something really horrible happens to you, something bad happens to you, you got a couple choices, right? You can either use it as a reason to fall apart, or you can use it as fuel to take over the world. I lost a family member, and those are his words to me. It was like, if your life falls apart because you're sad, use it as fuel. And ever since then, every time anything ever bad happens to me, I just crank it into another gear, and I get really intense about kicking ass and taking names. And found out my son was coming. I've never worked harder in my life. I can say that without a doubt. And I work hard. I found another gear. I broke both my feet. I figured out how to work harder, in a wheelchair. You get the point. It's just, if you use it as a reason to fall apart, that's what everybody else does. Use it as fuel to go and kick some ass, take some names, and use it as fuel to motivate you to take over the world.
I love it. I love it. Well, Gareth, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it. Obviously, I'm pumped to see the Penn State, Florida State, rivalry come back together. For many years there, we had some big bowl games and everything else. And obviously Andy's a Florida State guy, as you know, and we've had some.
Yeah, we went to the national championship together in 2013, and he, we got to sit in the Auburn section. Those Auburn, Alabama folk will never forget me. Never. Yeah, I am that fan. I am not. Yeah, I am not nice.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and everyone that's on live, thanks for joining us. If you again, watch the channel later. Our purpose of the channel is to help change the world one leader at a time. Gareth, obviously love you, brother. Appreciate the time today, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Okay, buddy. All right. See you guys. Have a great day.